Hello, everyone, and welcome. Have you ever seen a cat just bolt after something you can't even see? Or noticed how a tiny plant always seems to find its way towards the sun? Well, these aren't just random things happening. They're actually perfectly controlled actions. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the incredible command systems that make it all happen.
So let's just jump right in with a question we can all relate to. You accidentally touch a hot pan, and your hand just yanks back before your brain even has a chance to say, ouch. How on earth does that happen? It sounds like magic, right? But it's not. It's one of the most brilliant and life-saving tricks our body has.
All right, here's what we've got lined up. We'll start with that basic impulse to act. Then we'll follow the signals zipping through the body's high-speed network. We'll uncover the secret behind that reflex shortcut, and then, get this, we'll see how plants react without any nerves at all. Finally, we'll look at the chemical commands that run the whole show.
Okay, first things first. Movement is one of the biggest signs of life, but it's rarely just for the sake of it. It's almost always a controlled reaction to something happening around us, a way for any living thing to survive, find food, or just get out of danger. Exactly! You know, a kid on a swing, a buffalo chewing its food, or a plant leaning towards a window. Every single one of these actions is a response to something, and it's all being managed by these super sophisticated systems working quietly behind the scenes. So, for animals, how is this control so incredibly fast? The secret is the nervous system. You can think of it like the body's very own super fast internet, a whole network of biological wiring that sends messages using electrical signals at lightning speed. And the basic building block of this entire network? It's a tiny cell called a neuron. This one specialized cell is the absolute workhorse of our communication system. It's designed perfectly to pass messages from one part of the body to another in a flash. And here's what one looks like. These neurons are like high-performance cables. Information, like the smell of food or the heat from a fire, gets picked up and sent zipping along these pathways. They connect our senses to our brain and then our brain right back to our muscles.
So how does a message actually make the trip? Well, it's kind of like a three-step relay race. First, the dendrites on one end grab a signal, which kicks off an electrical impulse. That impulse then races down the long part, the axon. But to get to the next neuron, it has to cross this tiny gap called a synapse. To make the jump, it releases a little puff of chemicals that tells the next neuron, okay, your turn. And the process starts all over again. Electrical, chemical, electrical. Super cool.
And this brings us right back to that hot flame. See, in really dangerous situations, sending a message all the way up to the brain, letting the brain think about it, and then sending a command back down, well, that's just way too slow. You'd get a serious burn. So the body developed a much faster way, a shortcut. This chart really nails the difference. On one hand, you have voluntary actions, like picking up your phone. That's a conscious choice. It's deliberate, and it's a bit slower. But a reflex? That's the total opposite. It's automatic, unbelievably fast. And here's the kicker. It doesn't even bother going to the brain first. It gets its orders straight from the spinal cord. This life-saving shortcut is called the reflex arc. It's basically a pre-wired circuit. The nerve that feels the heat is directly connected to the nerve that moves your muscle, and they meet up in the spinal cord. The signal goes in, and the command to move goes out almost instantly. Your brain finds out what happened a split second later, which is exactly why you pull your hand away before you actually feel the pain. Of course, the brain is still the CEO of the whole operation. The brain and the spinal cord together make up the central nervous system. This is where all the big decisions are made, thinking, feeling, remembering things, and controlling all the things we choose to do. It also manages the stuff we don't think about, like our breathing and heartbeat. Okay, a super fast nervous system totally makes sense for animals on the move. But what about plants? They don't have nerves or muscles, so how do they deal with things like touch or light or gravity? This is where the story gets really, really interesting. So have you ever seen the touch me not plant? The moment you touch its leaves, they just fold right up. It's a super quick movement, but it has nothing to do with growing. What's actually happening is the plant is sending electrical, chemical signals that cause its cells to suddenly change their water pressure, making the leaves droop. It's amazing. It turns out plants kind of have two main ways of moving. First, you've got these rapid responses, like we just saw, which are all about water pressure. But the much more common way they move is way slower because it's linked directly to how they grow. And this is called tropism. We've all seen this, right? A plant on a windowsill will literally bend its stem to grow towards the light. That's called phototropism. At the very same time, its roots are growing downwards, following the pull of gravity, and that's geotropism. It's a slow, steady, and perfectly controlled kind of movement. So the big question is, how do plants control this growth? And is there a system that maybe, just maybe, both plants and animals share? The answer is yes, and that brings us to the second great command system, chemical messages, also known as hormones.
Plants make a whole cocktail of hormones to manage everything. For example, auxin is the hormone that helps cells get longer, which is the trick that lets the plant bend toward light. Gibberellins help the stem grow tall. Cytokinins encourage cells to divide, especially in fruits and seeds. And then you have hormones like abscisic acid, which is like a stop sign. It slows down growth when things aren't right.
This quote really captures the magic of hormones. Unlike the nervous system, which sends a message to one specific place, a chemical hormone gets released into the whole system. That means it can travel everywhere and talk to every single cell, coordinating a massive body-wide change all at once.
And the best example of this in animals is the fight or flight response. Picture this. You get a sudden scare. Instantly, your body floods with adrenaline. Your heart starts pounding, you breathe faster, and blood gets rerouted to your big muscles. It's the hormonal system getting your entire body ready for action in a split second.
So let's put it all together. Our bodies have these two amazing control systems. The nervous system is like sending a text message. It's electrical, super fast, and goes to one specific person. The hormonal system is more like making a public announcement. It's chemical, a little slower, but it reaches everyone, and its effects can last a whole lot longer. When you really think about it, from the blink and you'll miss it reflex that saves you from a burn to the slow, steady dance of a plant reaching for the sun, every living thing has figured out the perfect way to sense the world, react to it, and survive. It's this beautiful, complex symphony happening all around us and inside us every single moment. Isn't that just incredible? Thanks for joining me today.